The Men Tigers by Lieutenant Colonel W. H. Sleeman. Ramchand Rao, commonly called the Sudimant, chief of Deori, here overtook me. He came out from Sagar to visit me at Dhamodi, and not reaching that place in time, came on after me. He held Deori under the Peshwa, as the Sagar chief held Sagar, for the payment of the public establishment kept up for the local administration. It yielded him about £10,000 a year, and when we took possession of the country, he got an estate in the Sagar district, in rent-free tenure, estimated at £1,500 a year. This is equal to about £6,000 a year in England. The taste of native gentlemen led them always to expend the greater part of their incomes in the wages of trains of followers of all descriptions and in horses, elephants, and kong. And labor and the subsistence of labor are about 4 times cheaper in India than in England. By the breaking up of public establishments and consequent diminution of the local demand for agricultural produce, the value of land throughout all central India after the termination of the Maratha War in 1817 fell by degrees 30%, and among the rest that of my poor friend the Sudimant. While I had the civil charge of the Sagar district in 1831, I represented this case of hardship and government in the spirit of liberality which has generally characterized their measures in this part of India, made up to him the difference between what he actually received and what they had intended to give him. And he has ever since felt grateful to me. He is a very small man, not more than 5 feet high, but he has the handsomest face I have almost ever seen, and his manners are those of the most perfect native gentleman. He came to call upon me after breakfast, and our conversation turned upon the number of people that had of late been killed by tigers between Sagar and Deori, his ancient capital, which lies about midway between Sagar and the Narbudda river. One of his followers, who stood behind his chair, said that when a tiger had killed one man he was safe, for the spirit of the man rode upon his head and guided him from all danger. The spirit knew very well that the tiger would be watched for many days at the place where he had committed the homicide, and always guided him off to some other more secure place where he killed other men without any risk to himself. He did not exactly know why the spirit of the man should thus befriend the beast that had killed him, but, added he, there is a mischief inherent in spirits, and the better the man, the more mischievous is his ghost, if means are not taken to put him to rest. This is the popular and general belief throughout India, and it is supposed that the only sure mode of destroying a tiger who has killed many people is to begin by making offerings to the spirits of his victims, and thereby depriving him of their valuable services. Here's a note. When Agrippina, in her rage with her son Nero, threatens to take her son Britannicus to the camp of the legion and there assert his right to the throne, she invokes the spirit of his father, whom she had poisoned, and the manes of the Silani, whom she had murdered. End of note. The belief that men are turned into tigers by eating of a root is no less general throughout India. The Sudimant, on being asked by me what he thought of the matter, observed, quote, there was no doubt much truth in what the man said, but he was himself of opinion that the tigers which now infest the wood from Sagar to Deori were of a different kind. In fact, that they were neither more nor less than men turned into tigers, a thing which took place in the woods of central India much more often than people were aware of. The only visible difference between the two, end quote, added the Sudimant, open quote, is that the metamorphosed tiger has no tail, while the Bora or ordinary tiger has a very long one in the jungle about Deori. End quote. Continued he, open quote, there is a root which if a man eat of he is converted into a tiger on the spot, and if in this state he can eat of another he becomes a man again. A melancholy instance of the former, of which, end quote, said he, open quote, occurred. I am told, in my father's family when I was an infant. His washerman Raghu was like all washermen, a great drunkard, and being seized with a violent desire to ascertain what a man felt in the state of a tiger, he went one day to the jungle and brought home two of these roots, and desired his wife to stand by with one of them, and the instant she saw him assume the tiger's shape, to thrust it into his mouth. She consented. The washerman ate his root and became instantly a tiger, but his wife was so terrified at the sight of her old husband in this shape that she ran off with the antidote in her hand. Poor old Raghu took to the woods and there ate a good many of his old friends from the neighboring villages, but he was at last shot and recognized from the circumstance of his having no tail. You may be quite sure, end quote, concluded Surimund, open quote, when you hear of a tiger without a tail, that it is some unfortunate man who has eaten of that root, and of all the tigers he will be found the most mischievous. End quote. How my friend had satisfied himself of the truth of this story I know not, but he religiously believes it, and so do all his attendants and mine. And out of a population of 30,000 people in the town of Saugar, not one would doubt the story of the washerman if he heard it. I was one day talking with my friend the Raja of Maihir on the road between Jabbalpur and Mirzapur on the subject of the number of men who had been lately killed by tigers at the Kutra Pass on that road, and the best means of removing the danger. Nothing, said the Raja, could be more easy or more cheap than the destruction of these tigers if they were of ordinary sort, but the tigers that kill men by wholesale as these do are, you may be sure, men themselves converted into tigers by the force of their science, and such animals are of all the most unmanageable. Open quote. And how is it, Raja Sahib, that these men convert themselves into tigers? End quote. Open quote. Nothing. End quote. Said he. Open quote. Is more easy than this to persons who have once acquired the science, but how they learn it, or what it is, we unlettered men know not. There was once a high priest of a large temple in this very valley of Maihir, who were in the habit of getting himself converted into a tiger by the force of this science which he had thoroughly acquired. He had a necklace which one of his disciples used to throw over his neck the moment the tiger's form became fully developed. He had, however, long given up the practice, and all his old disciples had gone off on their pilgrimages to distant shrines, when he was one day seized with a violent desire to take his old form of the tiger. He expressed the wish to one of his new disciples and demanded whether he thought he might rely upon his courage to stand by and put on the necklace. Assuredly you may, said the disciple. Such is my faith in you and in the God we serve that I fear nothing. The high priest upon this put the necklace into his hand with the requisite instructions, and forthwith began to change his form. The disciple stood trembling in every limb till he heard him give a roar that shook the whole edifice, when he fell flat upon his face and dropped the necklace on the floor. The tiger bounded over him and out at the door, and infested all the roads leading to the temple for many years afterwards. End quote. Open quote. Do you think, Raja Sahib, that the old high priest is one of the tigers at the Kutra Pass? End quote. Open quote. No, I do not, but I think that they may be all men who have become imbued with a little too much of the high priest science. When men once acquired this science, they can't help exercising it, though it be to their own ruin and that of others. End quote. Open quote. But supposing them to be ordinary tigers, what is the simple plan you propose to put a stop to their depredations, Raja Sahib? End quote. Open quote. I propose, end quote, said he, open quote, to have the spirits that guide them propitiated by proper prayers and for the spirit of every man or woman who has been killed by a tiger rides upon his head or runs before him and tells him where to go to get prey and to avoid danger. Get some of the Gonds or wild people from the jungles who are skilled in these matters. Give them 10 or 20 rupees and bid them go and raise a small shrine and there sacrifice to their spirits. The gods will tell them that they shall on this shrine have regular worship and good sacrifices of fowls, goats, and pigs every year at least, if they will but relinquish their offices with the tigers and be quiet. If this is done, I pledge myself, end quote, said the Raja, open quote, that the tigers will soon killed themselves or cease from killing men. If they do not, you may be quite sure that they are not ordinary tigers, but men turned into tigers, or that the gods have appropriated all you gave them to their own use, instead of applying it to conciliate the spirits of the unfortunate people. End quote. From Rambles and Recollections of an Indian Official by Lieutenant Colonel W. H. Sleeman of the Bengal Army, Volume 1.